Hello all, bit of an experiment in this video, and a fairly successful one as it turns out. There's 4 million videos on YouTube about making your own wax paste for wood finishing. I've counted, all using beeswax as the base. Tried and tested, don't fix it if it ain't broken, all that, but due to some homespun candle making, we have bags of soy wax flakes around. I've been meaning to try it as a wood finish for a couple of years now, and following a brief discussion on it after one of Peter Millard's videos, it spurred me into looking at it as an option again. So here we are, as is customary, starting with a refined food-safe mineral oil. This is a petroleum byproduct, essentially baby oil without the perfume. These are the soy wax flakes. These particular ones were produced in Europe, and we buy them in kilo bags at about £5 each. That's about half the price of a kilo of beeswax pellets. But before you rush out and buy some to save money, that's not the whole story, so stay tuned. There's no scent at all to the soy flakes, aside from smelling sort of waxy. So, just because we had some in the cupboard, I'm going to scent my food-safe wax paste with this orange oil. This is an essential oil meant for flavouring chocolates and cakes and whatnot. As you can see, to warm everything up, I have a pan with some water in, into which I'll add my mixing jar, bain-marie style. To me, the soy flakes feel a little tackier than beeswax, so I start with what I thought was the low end of oil volume. I'm starting with 2 parts oil to 1 part wax. This would give a nice firm beeswax paste, so I was curious to see the results with this. On my pretty fancy induction hob thing here, I can dial in the heat in 10 degrees C increments. I found 80 degrees C to be perfect. This temperature is off the boil and a super gentle simmer, providing enough heat for melting. If you don't have an induction, bring to the boil and drop the heat so it's just off the boil or rolling simmer. You can just leave it to do its thing for a while, but I found agitating speeded up the melt. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes. You can use a silicone utensil of some sort for that if you like. I had one on the bench, but figured a little offcut from wood makes an adequate stirrer. So there, the mix is all clear, no wax flakes left, and ready to pour into my pot to cool. Smells beautiful with that orange oil in it. Any of you worried about the table saw, it was dual wax anyway. As it happens, for all the videos out there warning this is a messy job, I didn't spill one drop, so there. For posterity then, I'm also trying a non-food safe recipe, just to see if the addition of white spirit changes anything in terms of setting and application. Adding white spirit just speeds up the cure time. It does nothing much for the end results. If you're doing a 2 oil to 1 wax mix, say, you could go with just making half the oil content white spirit, or 1 part of each, so 1 to 1 to 1. I prefer a little less than that, with the white spirit being a quarter of the oil volume. So, for example, 1 part wax, 1.5 parts oil, and 0.5 parts spirit. I could already see my 2 to 1 ratio I did for the first food safe mix was going to be a very soft paste. With this non-food safe, I'm going 1 to 1 ratio, with a quarter of the oil volume being white spirit. Everything went in the jar at once with this one. As you can imagine, doesn't smell anywhere near as good as the one with the orange oil. Now, having cross-contaminated like all good YouTube pros, I won't be using this jar for any more food-safe recipes. But just as a heads up, cleaning can be done reasonably thoroughly by wiping out while still hot using an old cloth. Then warm soapy water like any of your regular dishwashers. The 1 to 1 non-food safe is looking like the Goldilocks mix, but I'm going to do one more food-safe mix. Food safe just because it smells better. I'm going to aim this time for a firm wax, so I have a range to try. I'm going 1 to 3, that's 1 part oil to 3 wax, and the customary 10 drops of orange oil of course. And here are the wax pastes I've ended up with. Softest on the right, hardest on the left. Food safe either side, non-food safe in the middle. The food safe on the right was 2 oil to 1 wax. The non-food safe in the middle was 1 part wax, 3/4 part oil, and 1/4 part white spirit. And the food safe on the left is the harder mixed with 3 parts wax to 1 part oil. You can see how soft the 2 to 1 is there. This was about 3 hours after making them, and I should say they did all firm up a little more by next morning, particularly this soft one. The middle 1 to 1 mix appears to be the ideal for a soy based wax, I think. Certainly my favourite anyway. The 3 to 1 wax to oil mix is, as you'd imagine, a very firm wax mix. I think maybe 2 to 1 wax to oil might make a nice firm mix for buffing though. Just don't go quite as far as I took it. Nonetheless, got a few wood samples here to try them all on. Haven't gone mad with them. A quick blast with 80, 120, 180, then 240 grits. This piece of ash here wasn't thickness planed or anything, so is a little cupped, but the surface is still nice and smooth after sanding. Right to left then, oak, ash, mahogany, then purple heart. A decent range of shades and open and tight grains, I think. I'm not going to apply every mix to each piece. On the oak piece here, I'm applying the soft food safe mix and nearest me and the hard at the other end. I'm applying just using some pieces cut from an old cotton t-shirt. I sort of feel that the softer mix makes more sense for open grain woods, so I was interested in the results between the soft and hard mix. The ash too gets the soft mix and nearest me. I should say after a whole day of setting, I no longer needed to assist the soft mix onto the cloth with my finger. It does set enough to just dip the rag and go eventually. I was quite surprised how much it yellowed the ash being so white a paste. There are pigments, including an ash white, you could add to the mix if you wanted more colour control. Back end of the ash gets a taste of the non-food safe. As mentioned earlier, this essentially 1-to-1 mix seems the Goldilocks ratio with soy wax. I think it shows a little on camera, but it's just gliding onto the wood surface. Non-food safe back and hard food safe for the mahogany then. Probably worth mentioning why you might choose to wax a furniture piece or chopping board over just oiling it with something like the mineral oil. It comes down to feel really. A wax finish can be intensely smooth and yet somehow still feel like wood. You can up the grits and oil finish and still get very satisfying smooth finishes, but it won't be Sade smooth like the wax. Buffed, a wax finish can give a pleasing satin shine or sheen too. Like oiling though, it will need periodic reapplication. The purple heart gets the same as the mahogany. Then I disappeared off to make a cup of tea, and after about 15 minutes used a clean cloth to buff off the pieces. I won't show you me doing them all. First thing to say then is, doesn't matter which mix I use, the results are as beautifully smooth on each. It's brought out a lovely range of tones in the oak, and I hope you can catch on camera, even with just a brief buffing, there's a nice gleam to the piece. Same with the ash, nice glisten and super smooth. Like all the pieces, this was sanded to 240, but you could just feel some of the darker grain. Not anymore, the wax has totally evened it out. Lovely. Onto the tighter grain woods. The mahogany and purple heart, buttery smooth, nice grain pop and glisten, but I did notice something interesting. After the 20 minutes or so it took to get round to buffing these, they, at the time, still felt a little waxy. The next morning I checked on them and that feel had gone. They had in effect cured. It just took a lot longer on these tight grain pieces than on the more open grain. Something to consider maybe. So there we go. Soy wax does indeed seem to make a decent wood finish. I mentioned the soy flakes being cheaper earlier, but as you need double the amount, you won't really save too much. Though you do need more oil with the beeswax too, so if you were making a lot, you could well save a fair few quid on a batch. On a couple of pots like mine though, you're saving a few pence at best, so it's negligible really. It does, however, give woodworkers who use a wax finish an option to supply finished goods to customers who prefer non-animal based products and finishes. And obviously, if you're a veggie or vegan or something, this is a wax finish you could make and use yourselves. As ever, hope this has been interesting, useful, or in some way distracting from the madness outside. I think with the amount I've waffled on, I've covered everything, but by all means, jump in below and comment if I haven't. Not going to link anything below. Everything I've mentioned here is widely available online or in your local craft and hardware shops and all that. That's it, I think, so if you've made it this far, thanks for watching.